What's up,
Hey,
everybody?
Jay and Ashley Nelson here. Jashley, as some people call us, I guess, or Baby Man and Boo Boo. You know that used to be a thing too.
It
right?
was. It was.
Yeah, it was.
We're still baby man and
So,
Boo Boo.
welcome to our weekly podcast, Married to a Realtor. We are passionate about each other, passionate about marriage, love, relationships, and real estate. And we know that it's not always easy. So we have put together this podcast where we interview other couples. Sometimes both people are in real estate, sometimes one is and the other is not. But just to help and give practical tips on how to survive it, and not just survive it, but survive it well. So
because it's hard to be married to a freaking realtor.
And I have zero makeup on tonight. I do
She
not
looked
have
great.
I do not have my hair even brushed. It's kind of been a rough day. I do deal with an illness that most people probably do not know about. So it's been a rough day, but we are on here nonetheless, and I will talk about that probably during this podcast to share kind of how we've dealt with that situation.
All right, so let's talk about this amazing couple that is episode 4, Married to a Realtor. This is a married couple that we've known a long time,
and we love them.
And they're amazing people. They're great Christian folks. We love them to death. Kathy and Steve Card. Let's bring them on from Nashville, Tennessee. What's up, Kathy and Steve?
Hey.
Hey. Tonight.
Good.
Y'all got those festive shirts on. I love that.
What's that?
Your festive shirts.
Yeah, I got lemons.
I like lemons.
So guys, welcome to the podcast. You guys are, how long have you guys been married? That first question.
37 years.
37 years.
Congratulations.
We just celebrated that on September the 8th, so a couple of weeks ago. Yeah.
It's super.
So it's still fresh on his mind. It's only been 2 weeks ago. He had to remember that.
So he didn't get in trouble. He got it.
He didn't get in trouble. Yeah.
Well,
we were like 12 when we got married. Just so you know. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, so y'all just start off by just telling us a little bit of your background. Like, when did you get in real estate? How long have you been in? Are you both in real estate? And who got in first? Start from the beginning.
Okay. So I've been doing real estate for right at 23 years now. And, it was never a plan really along the way for Steve to join in on that. We, he can share this, but his background was in automotive, and he'd done that since he was 16 years old. And so I get into real estate, leaving the corporate world, jumped into real estate, and just had gotten so busy. About 5 years in, just got to the point where I was either going to hire help or, that's when we really started talking about, like, nobody's going to really care about our business like we would, and I thought, well, if I'm going to be paying somebody else, like, effectively how I think we process through is, like, if we're paying somebody else, then that minimizes your salary by that much. So let's just take another leap of faith, because it was a leap of faith when I jumped into real estate in full time, because I'd been in the corporate world too for 15 years at the same company. And so it was a leap of faith to jump into 100%, commission. And because we needed our money, my money as well as his money. And so I remember leaving my corporate job thinking, I've got to replace $40,000 a year. And that was my mindset jumping into real estate, is leaving. But, anyway, I'd gotten my license, and I kind of did it 4 or 5 months part-time while I was working this corporate job.
Yeah, so you got the license and still kept the job for a minute.
Yeah, for about 6 months. And then I just told Steve, I'm like, if I'm going to be serious about this, I've got to leave the job. And so we prayed about it. I prayed diligently about it for about 2 months. And, after working at that corporate job for 15 years, when I left, I had really complete peace. Interesting. I wasn't scared, but I was excited. People ask me all the time, why did you get into real estate? We ask that about realtors, and I look back, and there was not any one thing that drove me into it. I just thought it was something that I would really enjoy. It wasn't because I loved looking at houses. It wasn't because I thought I could make a whole lot of money, all of that stuff. but I was so excited about it. I remember listening to a Tom Hopkins CD, and this is the silliest story. I was listening and he was talking about all these, you know, what Buffini would talk about, like now as a pop by, but just all these things that you could do. And the one thing that stood out in my mind was he had talked about in his neighborhood how he farmed. One of the things that he did at Halloween is he had a truck and he rented a flatbed, put hay on it, all these pumpkins, and he just delivered pumpkins to his farm neighborhood.
Oh,
And
wow.
I got so excited about that.
You
And
want to be a pumpkin
I
delivery.
remember calling my brother, who was 16 years older, a CPA, very logically, practically minded. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm getting ready to jump off the cliff and go into real estate full time. And I was like, I was just listening to this it was probably an 8-track tape back then. I said, I was just listening to this and telling him about the whole pumpkin thing. And he was like, okay. You know, anyway, but I was just so excited about it. And then, you know, got to the point 5 years later where, you know, Steve, I was like, I need help.
Steve, what were your thoughts about coming on to help her and your background being in automotive? Were you not really, were you in sales at all in automotive or?
Well, I was in wholesale parts sales.
Yeah.
For a long time. And would actually go out and call on body shops and garages and things like that. But, you know, take big, massive orders. Back in the day when I worked at Jim Reed, half my family worked at Jim Reed Chevrolet downtown on Broad.
Yeah.
I don't know if y'all remember that, but
yeah,
it's kind of like Beeman. It was us and Beeman, you know, selling parts to all of Middle Tennessee pretty much. So
how did you feel about jumping in?
that was a big change. Let's just say that. But I was ready for it. I'd already topped out. I was working out at Andrews Cadillac, and you know, I was pretty much topped out then. I think, you know, I mean, as far as salary goes, without being like the general manager, so. I wasn't gonna wait around for somebody to die, you know. So I was like, it's probably a good time to look at something else, you know. And so,
what about working with Kathy?
Yeah, well,
like,
how did y'all decide on what
I
you were going to do, Steve or Kathy?
I feel like she was really busy, really rocking and rolling, and she's talking about hiring all these assistants, and all these numbers start going through my head. I'm like, I got to pay this person $40,000 a year, and I got to pay this person $40,000 a year, and this little secretary $30,000 a year, and this,
He's
you know,
exaggerating.
and I'm like, I'm like, I could be making that money, you know, I'm gonna save that money. So, you know, I was like, well, all right, I wonder how big a deal it'd be to, you know, to go to the classes and stuff. So I took night classes over at CLI, and you know, went from there and just kind of eased into it a little bit. I kept working. I remember for a little while, probably about I think, when was that? 2004 or 5, something like that. Anyway, I worked for a little while. But you remember in 2005, 2006, that was rock and roll time, man. Everybody was humping and going, you know. So, well, not humping,
So
you know.
what do you
I
want? Humping. This is Married to a Realtor, man. I hope you guys was doing
All
something.
right, let's move on.
But that's when I decided to do it, and it really, the whole process probably was about a year involved, I think, before I actually, you know, hung up my spurs and said, all right, you know what, I'm just gonna go all in with Kathy. And so kind of did that then.
So Kathy, how did it go? Was it smooth? Was it
no, so here's the first tip I'll share. It was really a busy time. He jumped in. I was running and going, and it came down to, like, I was ultimately, probably within a year, we ended up hiring a full-time assistant still, right? Even after he had joined me full-time. we still ended up with the full-time assistant. And so I feel like, I was like, hey, I need to go show this buyer, I need to do this, I need to do that. While I'm running opposite directions, with other buyers and sellers. He did more of the buyers. I still did buyers too, but I did all the listing stuff, and he would pick up a lot of the slack on the buyer. But we had several, so I still had to, go show buyers too. We never did things together. It was kind of the conquer and divide. And so it really just, it went fine for a long time because we just were so busy. And where the change happened was when the market shifted, and we didn't know. And so where the lesson is that I would share, in hindsight, is we never really sat down, because he jumped in at such a busy time, almost out of necessity. And when he jumped in, we never really sat down and defined a plan, the roles, all of that. And then when the market turned and we weren't as busy, and I think, we're in that time now, right? Everyone's so busy going on. Everything's so busy going on, and if people have their spouse maybe planning what we did, 15 plus years ago, then it's, you got to talk about that, because when things are great, they're great. But when they slow down and you're both 100% commission, it's like, and you don't have defined roles, then it's like, okay, that's when the rubber hits the road. That's when, some serious conversations and struggles can happen, within the marriage itself.
What was the hardest thing for y'all during that time?
We're talking 2008, 2009 market crash.
I think just the whole financial stress was probably the biggest. We were moving money around to pay things,
like everybody,
to pay bills. I mean, it was crazy. It felt like we were robbing Peter to pay Paul and all that. We were just, we took a big hit on some 401 money that we took out, and when you take it out early, you got to pay like 40% tax on it, so it's and that was just not even that was just to stay afloat, you know what I mean, not to like get ahead of the game. That was just to
well, when he said, I mean, we understand that. I mean, we went through the same thing in 08. Who didn't? I mean, Steve said you were robbing Peter to pay Paul. Well, every time I was trying to rob Peter, Peter was broke.
That's right.
He was broke too. But
Peter, we were all broke.
I'll say the hardest lesson, again, everything's hindsight for me. And again, because we didn't define those roles properly, because he jumped in and we were just going 95 miles an hour for years, several years, until things came to that screeching halt in real estate. For me personally, the hard thing was I had an expectation of him that he didn't sign up for. Like I wanted him, because at that point I'd always been the lead generator. I'd done it on my own for 5 years before he jumped in to help. And so, then my expectation of him, changed. It's like, okay, now you need to go out and get business too. Like, I don't want this whole responsibility and burden. This isn't fun anymore. The first 10 years it was fun.
I think that's a challenging part of actually being in a relationship with someone that you're all, am I like, well, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like you start sizing each other up. That has moments of really, really like test you. And I know that's been that way for us even. Yeah.
And
feel like that was that for y'all?
And you feel like
100%.
I know she probably felt that way too, but you almost feel like you're defending yourself half the time. It's like justifying everything that you do, and not just work things, but domestically, what you're doing around the house and everything, because you're both working in the same deal. So it can be, it can be a grind on you pretty quick. And then If you let that fester, then you just end up, really not I mean, how strong your love gets tested. Let's just put it that way. Relationship gets tested, and I think we're stronger for it. We've come out on the other side, I think, real healthy. But I always went into it as her biggest cheerleader and her biggest fan, and so I always put her way out there, and I was all, the old song, "The Wind Beneath My Wings." not to say that kind of mushy like that, but I wanted to be the shoulders that she could stand on. You know what I mean? And so I let her be up there, and then I don't want to be out there. So it was a big adjustment when she started trying to push me out there, because then I'm like, all right, well, that ain't what I got into this, for.
I'm just your wing beneath your wings. To be in this. So, I'm not supposed to be the bird out there. So
I want to be we, together in the real estate business. So that's a little hard, but I did during that time, just to clarify things up. I did take some financial burden off of her being the lead generator and everything. I took another job. I started working for Williamson County Schools back during that time, which saved us
for insurance.
That
was a big expense.
And plus, even though it's a part-time, 35 hours a week part-time, but still, it's pretty good money now. I've been doing it. I'm still doing it. So I'm, about 13 years now.
He found out, which he's passed now, but found out.
Now I'm grandfathered into the benefits, so I can retire in a couple of years and get full benefit out of it and keep insurance.
That's so good for people to hear, because whenever y'all are in a tight spot, sometimes you just do have to make an adjustment. And it may not be like the path you thought you were going to go on, but like you said, it's what saved y'all during that time, and it's helped support you your entire life since then.
Yeah, it added a nice little chunk to our financial package, and well,
the one thing, let me share this. The one thing going back that I would say is, again, we're in a good market. So for a learning perspective for people is, you need to have the discussions now about, what are we going to do when this market shifts? And it's going to, it always does, right? It may be 1 year, it may be 5 years, but you need to discuss that when it's not, you're in the midst of it in a high pressure situation, and having to make those decisions, and, already emotions are on 100, when your financial world changes overnight, like it did for all of us that were in the business right back then. And so I would say, if you have not already had that discussion with your spouse, especially if you've only been doing real estate together for 4, 5, 6 years, it's all been gravy for the last 5 or 6 years. But what are you going to do when it shifts? And so have the discussions now while everyone's feeling great about everything, not later when you're in the midst of it.
I think too many people wait. Like you think that it's that the momentum's going to continue. And I definitely remember, during that time, I actually owned I was building 120 townhomes. And I remember the shift happened like it was 1 minute to boom, just boom. And
same like that. Yeah.
Not even, we couldn't give those townhomes away. So it was, I always say, as a couple, you really need to be planning for I'm not saying keep a negative mindset, but at the same time, it's our responsibility as a couple to have that communication. What do we do if? What are we going to do if?
And there are, like I said at the beginning of this podcast, I don't have any makeup on. Hair's not even brushed today.
Look hot.
Thank you. It's the Puerto Rican tan, I guess. But this is a good spot for me to talk about this because there's some things that are unavoidable and like you might not would think about it. So I had started an illness back in 2012 where, I mean, I had just as much energy as Jay. You know, I only required 2 hours of sleep a night. I worked all the time. I had three kids, was all over the place. And then went from that to random swellings of my face. I mean, people didn't see me those days, so most people didn't even know anything was wrong with me.
She wasn't taking swelling pictures
I wasn't
on
doing
Instagram.
selfies with half of my face swollen, or hives all the way down my body, fever every single day. I'd have a good day here and there. And so I went from almost not requiring sleep at all to like forcing myself to get out of bed at 11:30 every day. And that was very hard because for one, that was where I got a lot of value was from work, you know, and helping and providing and also, and it was really hard for Jay. So on us as a couple, that like just like when the crash happened, it was like everything halted, like, but that only happened to me. And so, and Jay really didn't understand it because I looked pretty normal on a lot of days, even though I didn't feel it. And we had to really work through that. It was very, very
Tough.
Difficult. Jay was not nice.
What is this? You know what? Rewind the podcast. Rewind the podcast, Steve.
Just edit that right out.
He really was. But I have to give it to
You made up for it.
I have to give it to, I would say though, but you have to do things that are proactive to help the situation. So I have the best cardiologist. I had heart problems and everything on the planet, Dr. Hal Roseman in Nashville, Tennessee, the best. Just absolutely love him. He got on a phone call with Jay and went through everything with Jay and explained everything and said, I have like proof of every single thing that she's saying. Like she is not well. And it was like, it really changed Jay. Like, so just like taking the time to have the doctor talk to Jay, and then now he could understand it. And then I had a couple of really good years these last, 2 or 3 years. And it's just recently come back. So, and got some results today where one of the things that I deal with is I have strep in my body that's really hard to get rid of. And that did come back today positive again. So, but
you just never know, you never know what's gonna.
But now, and I still feel guilty, and I'm like, I'm so sorry I can't do anything today, babe. I'm so sorry I feel bad. Like I am constantly apologizing. I'm gonna try not to cry. I'm constantly apologizing because I can't do what I know I can do, and that's so hard. And so he really has changed to say, I just want you to be healthy.
Yeah.
And it's just been such a blessing how you have changed to be able to help me through this because it's not easy.
Yeah. Well, so, I mean, you just go through all that stuff and you got to find ways through it. What else?
What comes to my mind though, Ashley, is you guys are here tonight and that's why y'all are successful. You've made a commitment to do this podcast, every week and feeling bad and all, like, you show up, it's like, hey, I don't have a hairbrush. I don't have makeup on, but you show up, you still both are just there 100%. So
we just do what we can.
And he's good about helping me with that too sometimes, but not in a mean way now.
Yeah.
Steve, I was never mean. No,
I can't imagine.
Mean. I'm kind of hard on everybody in the world.
Oh, Steve, everybody thinks only Steve would be like, Kathy's like really mean at me a lot of times. I can be that, I think, we all, again, going back to communication, it's like we don't get taught that. We don't get taught how to communicate effectively with our loved ones, our kids, our family, all of that. And so if you don't have those skills, which again, we don't get taught, when pressure comes, sometimes our communication comes out sideways. I mean, I
think it's just critical, the communication.
Yeah.
I mean,
for sure.
You can't, you can say, oh, well, I understand my spouse, but you got to really move away from, because we're all so different.
Yeah.
I mean, you and Steve are different. Ashley and I are, everybody's so different.
Yeah.
So if you're not working on figuring out your adaptability to your spouse, I mean, you're going to hit the wall and you're going to, and it'll either make you or break you. And, fortunately, everybody on this, podcast here tonight, I mean, we've overcome, we're learning. I don't think I've got it figured out. And I know you don't either.
And we were always constantly changing too.
Yeah.
So
That's right.
talk about that a little bit, because 37 years of marriage.
Wow.
37 years.
Is he the same guy you married 37 years ago?
Yeah, talk about that, but just changes of of each of you growing and how that works.
Yeah, we definitely both, I feel like, have changed and evolved. And he's more mellowed out. I think I've gotten more high strung.
Way more.
He's way more mellowed, and I've gotten way more crazy.
I was very competitive, high strung, all those things as a younger guy. But I tell you what, Jay, and I know Ashley's probably gone through some of that, but what I went through personally the last couple of years with the bypass surgery and everything.
Oh my gosh.
It was a very emotional trip. And I mean, it changed me a lot from, there are certain things that'll do that to you. And they said, for whatever reason, they said that that's one of the things that will happen to you. It's going to be an emotional healing process. But I mean, I'm sitting there, I'm crying at commercials, I'm like, what is wrong with me? I'm like, this can't be happening. But I'm like, I'm Papa Steve. I'm not supposed to be crying at a 5-year-old commercial. It's crazy. But when you see things, and then what you just went through, and what really is important.
Yep.
It don't really matter. So many things are just crazy, ridiculous. What we let bother us, or what we let take up our time that we ought to be using to spend on the ones that we love. I think that has, of all the 37 years, that's probably where I've evolved the most, is that I don't love anything or anybody any more than this woman right now.
Oh,
Don't make me cry.
That's going to be forever.
We're going to be crying by the end of this podcast.
But I mean, she went through, the time that I was in St. Thomas was about a month after your spouse could actually go in. Before I had that surgery, for about 6 months before that, up to that point, you would have to go in by yourself. They wasn't letting anybody go in.
Because COVID, yeah.
Whoever the surgery was on, that was the only person going in.
I can't even imagine
And
dropping somebody off for that.
And I've got all these tubes and wires sticking out of me all over the place and everything. And I mean, I really look like some kind of cyborg off of Star Wars or something.
Yeah.
I mean, it was crazy. But I felt like at that time I was really emotional. And when I went in that morning, the doctor, I don't know if y'all heard the song, the Blessing, with Carrie Joby and that whole part about blessing your family and all the generations, that and I told him, Dr. Tedder was my surgeon, and I said, I prayed for you this morning. And I said, it's going to be good. And and he looked at me and he said, thank you. I prayed too. And
Awesome.
You're right. It's going to be a great day.
And you're feeling better now? You're feeling
That was before the surgery. So,
Yeah.
that made a big difference to me.
But you know what I will say, kind of bringing it back into the, real estate world, is because of this business and that career, and because a plug for EXP, and the opportunities that it gives us as agents, right, to build our own business, it did afford me the mental capability to not even worry about my real estate. You know what I'm saying? I had people covering that. And so, while he was in the hospital, and probably for 6 or 7 weeks after he came home, and just the care and everything, like for 2 months, I wasn't worried about my real estate. But, he and I've talked about this many times, is because of that blessing of, really, quite honestly, EXP, we didn't have the financial burden hanging over us like so many realtors would. Right. And so, we felt very fortunate, very blessed through that. But again, that came out of nowhere, his surgery. And again, bringing it back to, the married and real estate, we've got to be prepared for those times, those down times, those financially down times. And again, when things are good, they're good. And so people that know me well know I'm all about, financial peace, because we did not have financial peace 12, 14 years ago. And so it's become an important thing, for us, I feel like, in learning the hard way through that as realtors, is to be prepared for the next downturn, as prepared as we can be. The next downturn, unexpected things like happening, with his surgery and bypass last year. I mean, even like you guys, Ashley, with you and your unexpectedness, when you're going to be feeling completely out, not doing the things that you do every day. And I know you're a huge, partner with Jay in the business, and helping the business to the degree that you guys have gotten it to.
Absolutely.
And so, it's being prepared when you're in this business together for those times that are going to come, and we're not expecting them. Yeah.
Well, you guys are awesome. I mean, 37 years of marriage, and, just still in love and in a stressful industry. Cause I'm going to tell you, real estate is a stressful industry. It's not easy on a couple. That's one of the reasons why we really wanted to do the podcast is, everybody, here's a podcast on selling more houses, and this is how great I am at real estate, blah, 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 blah. We were like, you know what about just being,
this is what matters.
This is what matters.
This is what matters.
And I really want to say thank you to you guys for being willing to come on here and just be transparent and share some of the things from your heart, because that's why we're doing this. And you guys are amazing. What would you want to say to somebody out there that might be, seriously, I'm going to ask both of y'all this question, and then we'll wrap this thing up. If there was a realtor out there that maybe had a spouse that either was in real estate with them or wasn't, doesn't really matter, but they were just really at a crossroads. Maybe they were button heads. Maybe they weren't on the same page. Maybe one's outperforming the other. Somebody's not, and things are getting wonky, right? What would you say to that person? What kind of advice would you give them right now to try to turn the corner and make everything work and be happy again?
So I'll start, and then you might have something to do. So I've got a couple of thoughts on that. Number one, kind of going back to the communication, you got to be able to communicate with one another. You got to make a planned time to do that. And you've got to know that you're at the end of the day, you're both working for the same result. And you got to know that you're a team, and that you both want the same things. It may be different how you want to get there, and that's just where that communication comes in. But then the second thing I'll say to it is not letting your pride get in the way, in the fact that if things are at those crossroads and it is that, that button head time and you can't get through it, then go get professional help. I mean, go get counseling. And, some people have a problem with that. Steve is not crazy about that himself. I think that's just men. But, because he loves me, there's been time in our marriage, that we've gone to counseling before. And during that 12 years ago, we're 14, whenever all that happened, that was one of those times because, we were at that point. And so sometimes for one or the other spouse, it's like you got to let the pride go and, again, work to, figure out how to work together to ultimately achieve what you're trying to achieve together.
That's great. Steve, that was awesome, Kathy.
I just want to say one thing to that, because I'll say that was something that was hard for me because Jay, I was used to being that front person too, and Jay. And then when I couldn't be, and then it was kind of like, I kind of had to deal with that emotionally. Like, wait a minute. Like, I remember when we first went out one night in Nashville, I think we were just dating. I grabbed his hand. I was walking in this honky tonk in Nashville. He was like, "Don't be leading me.
You don't lead me through the bar.
You don't lead me through the bar."
I said, "You don't lead me through the bar." I know. I'm such a twit.
He would never say that now. I mean, he would
say, "Wait a minute, girl. You don't lead me through the bar."
And I was like, "Whoa, okay." But we're both like naturally kind of like that personality. So that was, the church this week was about being, being meek and that's really you being strong and in self-control, and be in control, actually under, God's control. And so that was just a big lesson for me. And we're both, learning that every day. But I think letting the pride go is a big deal to be able to work together.
Steve, what would you say to that? And then we'll wrap this thing up. I know we're going quite a long time, but it's been great.
Well, I think it's all about that those new positions book that I got. That probably saved us.
OMG.
Steve.
Hey, just for the record, he ain't got no doggone new book that I know about.
I like that.
Yes, you better be stretching out. You better be getting limber.
When you have it surgery, you're laying around, you ain't doing a whole lot, so
get to the point, the real point.
I like that.
Gosh.
But the real point is that no matter what you're thinking, outside pressures, the one that you're married to is going to be that's the one that matters. The old saying, you always hurt the one you love.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let that be happening. Don't let the sun go down on your anger. If you got problems, get it out. At least get it out where you can fight about it later. You know what I mean? Don't hash it out.
Don't hold it in.
Yeah, don't hold it in, and don't let that fester into. I mean, so many people, I think, end up divorcing or something. That's always the worst thing. But they don't even remember what started them down the path of getting divorced.
Wow.
They just know I don't like this person anymore.
That's it, man. That's
you got to fall back to why do I love you so much? Why did I fall in love with you in the first place?
Wow.
And you got to build on that, and keep that going because, we live and love and laugh and cry together. I mean, that's it. I mean, we do all those things, and that's a full day, and that, we pray together. There's very few things other than men's group things, whatever, or just hanging out with the guys kind of thing. I don't mind spending a whole lot of time with this woman, so.
But it goes back to, that word. It's like, we're we're a team, and and we are wanting the same goals together. And that's, in any marriage, and when you work together, I would assume, is is the path that you want to roll down. You know, when you're both realtors, you're both really, again, trying to get to the same goal at the end of the day, whatever your goals are.
We're trying to be Jashley. I don't know how, we don't have a name. So Staffy. I don't know how that is. That don't even sound good, does it?
Staffy, there you go.
Guys,
we'll work on that. We're gonna work on that name for next time. We'll come up with some.
Staffy, Jashley loves you.
Staffy.
And we're happy to have y'all as friends and business partners and in our life. And y'all are a great example to us all the time also. So we always end this podcast, Married to a Realtor, where we all do a little heart.
Do a little heart.
Your heart. Jay had to figure this out the first time.
Yeah, this is.
And then on the count of 3, we all kiss. Okay.
Here we go.
Yes. 1, 2, 3.
Married to a Realtor. Steve Carter, guys. And Steve, make sure when you're finished reading that book about the new wild positions, pass it on over to Big Dog Jay. Come on.
There you go.
Oh my God.
Oh my goodness.
I'm gonna send you the illustrated version
tonight.
Oh God.
My guys.
Edit that off.
Live.
Oh, MG, Lord. Bye.
It's live. We're just having fun.
Having
He really
fun.
didn't buy
There's
that
no
book.
book.
Don't worry
There's
about
no
it.
book.
There's no book.
There is no book. I'm making my own book.
My God.